On a cold morning in March 1603, the people of England faced a reality many had never imagined. Queen Elizabeth I, the woman who had ruled for nearly 45 years, was dying. For decades, she had been the center of English politics, diplomacy, religion, and national identity. To many of her subjects, it seemed as though Elizabeth had always been there and always would be. But every reign comes to an end. As the Queen's health declined inside Richmond Palace, ministers gathered anxiously around her. The greatest question in England remained unanswered: who would inherit the throne after the last Tudor monarch? When Elizabeth finally passed away at the age of 69, an extraordinary chapter of English history closed forever. The Tudor dynasty, which had ruled England since the victory of Henry VIII in 1485, ended with her. Yet the remarkable part of this story is not how Elizabeth died. It is how she survived. Because from the moment she was born, Elizabeth Tudor lived in a world where power could disappear overnight. Born on September 7, 1533, at Greenwich Palace, Elizabeth entered a royal family already consumed by uncertainty. Her father, King Henry VIII, desperately wanted a son to secure his dynasty. Instead, his second wife, Anne Boleyn, gave birth to a daughter. Although celebrations were held, many at court viewed the birth as a disappointment. No one could have predicted that this little girl would become one of England's most famous rulers. Elizabeth's early childhood changed dramatically in 1536. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, was accused of crimes against the crown and executed at the Tower of London. Whether the charges were true remains one of history's most debated questions. For Elizabeth, however, the result was immediate. She lost her mother, she lost her status, and she was declared illegitimate. Before the age of 3, Elizabeth had already learned that royal blood offered no protection from danger. As Henry VIII continued marrying, divorcing, and reshaping his court, Elizabeth grew up watching the rise and fall of powerful figures around her. Some queens were discarded. Others were executed. Some simply vanished from influence. These experiences taught Elizabeth an important lesson. Survival often depended on patience, observation, and self-control. Unlike many royal children, Elizabeth also received an exceptional education. She studied languages, history, philosophy, religion, and classical literature. Tutors quickly recognized her intelligence. By her teenage years, she could read and write in multiple languages and discuss complex political and religious ideas with confidence. Her education would later become one of her greatest strengths as queen. But before that day arrived, Elizabeth faced another serious challenge. When Henry VIII died in 1547, the throne passed to his son Edward VI. During Edward's reign, Elizabeth remained largely out of political conflict. That changed after Edward's death in 1553. His half-sister Mary became queen. History remembers her as Mary I. The relationship between Mary and Elizabeth was complicated from the beginning. They represented different religious visions for England. Mary supported Catholicism. Elizabeth was associated with Protestant reform. As political tensions increased, suspicion fell upon Elizabeth. Following a rebellion against Mary's government, Elizabeth was arrested and imprisoned in the Tower of London. The same fortress where her mother had spent her final days now became her prison. For weeks, Elizabeth lived under uncertainty. She did not know whether she would be released or executed. Every message, every footstep, every knock on a door could bring life-changing news. Eventually, insufficient evidence prevented harsher punishment. Elizabeth survived once again. The experience transformed her. She became more cautious, more disciplined, and far more aware of the dangers of power. Then, in November 1558, everything changed. Mary I died without leaving an heir. At 25 years old, Elizabeth became Queen of England. The nation she inherited faced serious problems. Religious division had created deep wounds. Government finances were strained. Foreign threats remained constant. Many doubted whether a young, unmarried woman could successfully rule. Elizabeth proved them wrong. One of her earliest achievements was creating a religious settlement that reduced conflict and brought greater stability to the kingdom. It was not a perfect solution. Critics existed on both sides. Yet it helped prevent England from descending into the violence that had damaged other European nations. As the years passed, Elizabeth established herself as a capable and determined ruler. She surrounded herself with talented advisors, encouraged trade, strengthened government institutions, and carefully managed foreign relations. Yet one question followed her everywhere. Why would she not marry? Parliament raised the issue repeatedly. Foreign rulers proposed alliances. European princes competed for her attention. Still, Elizabeth refused to commit. Some historians believe she feared losing authority. Others point to the examples she witnessed during childhood. Whatever the reason, Elizabeth chose a different path. Rather than becoming a queen beside a king, she ruled alone. This decision became one of the defining features of her reign. Meanwhile, a new challenge emerged in the form of Mary, Queen of Scots. As a Catholic claimant with royal blood, Mary represented a serious threat to Elizabeth's position. Over time, multiple plots linked to supporters of Mary were uncovered. Eventually, evidence convinced Elizabeth's government that action was necessary. In 1587, Mary was executed. The decision remains one of the most controversial moments of Elizabeth's reign. Yet even greater danger was approaching. The following year, England faced the Spanish Armada. Spain, one of Europe's most powerful kingdoms, launched a massive naval expedition against England. Many feared disaster. Elizabeth responded with determination. Her famous speech to English troops became one of the most celebrated addresses in British history. Against expectations, the Armada failed. The victory transformed Elizabeth into a symbol of national resistance and strength. England's confidence grew, its international reputation expanded. And Elizabeth's popularity reached new heights. The later years of her reign witnessed cultural achievements that would define an era. Writers, playwrights, explorers, and scholars flourished. Among them was William Shakespeare, whose works became part of the cultural legacy associated with Elizabethan England. By the beginning of the 17th century, however, age was catching up with the Queen. Many of her closest friends and advisors had died. The energetic ruler of earlier decades now faced loneliness and declining health. In March 1603, her long reign finally came to an end. She died at Richmond Palace after ruling for nearly 45 years. The crown passed to James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England. With that transition, the Tudor dynasty ended. But Elizabeth's legacy endured. She began life as a child whose future appeared uncertain. She survived political danger, imprisonment, religious conflict, and international threats. She transformed herself from an unwanted princess into one of the most influential monarchs in English history. More than 4 centuries later, her name remains among the most recognizable in the story of England. Elizabeth Tudor was the last Tudor. For many, she was also the greatest.